Today's lesson is chapter 6.4, parallel and perpendicular lines. So from your previous math experiences, you've learned about parallel lines and perpendicular lines, but we're just going to review what they are. So parallel lines are two lines that never meet. Okay? So no matter how far we extend these two lines, they will never ever meet. So that actually means that the slopes are the same. Okay, so parallel lines, which we indicate with these arrows, never meet, which means that when, let's say, the top line rises 1 and runs 3, the bottom line also rises 1 and runs 3. The slope is always the same, and that's why they never meet. Okay. Perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at a 90-degree angle, which we indicate with this little box at the intersection. So their slopes, these two lines, their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. Okay, so the reciprocal means the opposite. Okay, so if this line, if one of the lines, the slopes is 2, then the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. Okay, now the negative reciprocal means that you just change the sign. So if the first slope is +2, the negative reciprocal of the second would be the second slope, and the negative reciprocal would be -1/2. Okay, so we're going to practice stating the negative reciprocals in the example 1. Okay, so 3/4. So the negative reciprocal would then be, so again, just flipping the numerator and denominator and then changing the sign. Okay, next, -5. Now remember, every whole number has an invisible denominator of 1. So flipping that fraction and then changing its sign to positive. Okay, so next is -0.8, and it's to make your life easier, we're going to actually just convert that into a fraction first. So 0.8 is, or -0.8 is -4/5. And then again, just flipping the fraction and changing its sign to its opposite. Okay, and then when you get a mixed number, you have to convert it into an improper fraction in order to flip the numerator and denominator and change its sign. Okay, now remember, the sign will not follow the numerator into the denominator. Okay, so the negative sign cannot be in the denominator ever. So you either place the sign in front of the fraction, or you assign it to the numerator. Okay, but writing it like this is incorrect. Okay, example 2. So the equation of a line is y is equal to 3x minus 4. State the slope of the parallel line. Okay, so remember I told you in the past that we're going to now be getting into graphing more than one line on a grid. So here we go. So we have one line, and the equation is this. Now, what would be the slope of a second line on the graph that is parallel to the first one? Now remember, parallel lines have the same slope. So if the slope of the first line is 3, then that means that the slope of the second line would also be 3. So I'm just going to write that down for you. So since parallel lines have the same slope, therefore slope of parallel line is 3. Now notice I'm not writing 3x, just 3. The equation of a line is y is equal to 3 over 5x plus 2. State the slope of the perpendicular line. So the second line is perpendicular to the first. So the first thing we need to do is identify the slope of the first line. 3 over 5. So negative reciprocals would be the slope of the perpendicular line. So I'm going to flip the fraction and then change its sign. Again, writing that note down for you. So since perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes, therefore slope of perpendicular line is negative 5 over 3. Circle the equations of the lines that are parallel. Okay, so let's just highlight all of the slopes. So we have 3 over 4, 3, 3 over 4, 4 over 3. Okay, so parallel means that the slopes are the same. Okay, so which ones have the same slope? Well, A and C. Since A and C have the same slope, therefore they are parallel. Circle the equations of the lines that are perpendicular. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight the slopes again. Okay, so remember that perpendicular means that slopes are negative reciprocals. Okay, so they are not the same, but they are negative reciprocals. So if this slope is 3, then the negative reciprocal would be negative 1 over 3, which is here. So A and B, those lines are perpendicular to each other. But I'm just going to look at C and D for a second. The slope of C is 1 over 3. So the negative reciprocal of 1 over 3 would be negative 3, or negative 3 over 1, which is written right here. So A and B are perpendicular, and C and D are also perpendicular. So I'm going to write, for here, since slopes of A and B are negative reciprocals, therefore perpendicular lines. Sorry, I'm just kind of writing this on the side. And then I'm also going to write it here for C and D, the same thing. Since slopes are slopes of C and D are negative reciprocals, therefore these two are also perpendicular. Okay. And number 5, determine whether each pair of lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay. So I'm going to highlight the slopes again for A, so 3 over 4 and 4 over 3. So for them to be parallel, they would have to be either both 3 over 4 or both 4 over 3, which they're not. For them to be perpendicular, they would have to be, the slopes would have to be 3 over 4 and negative 4 over 3, and it's positive 4 over 3. So this one is neither. I'm going to write neither. Slopes are not the same, nor negative reciprocals of each other. Okay, let's look at the next one. So 1 over 5 and, we're going to have to change this into slope y-intercept form because I can't identify what the slope is when it's in standard form. So I'm going to isolate my y and then divide all terms by 2. -5, 12. Okay, so the slope here is -5. So yeah, these two are negative reciprocals of each other. 1/5 and -5 are negative reciprocals. So since slopes are negative reciprocals, therefore perpendicular lines. Okay, so if you graphed these two on a grid, then they would be perpendicular to each other. They would create that 90-degree angle. Speaking of graphing, let's practice graphing here. And now I'm just realizing that my grids didn't show up. They're not appearing. So you should have 2 grids for A and B, one for each question. But I don't. So I'm going to create 1 or 2. All right, so the first one is y is equal to -4x minus 3. So I'm going to start with the B, which is -3. Plot that, and then I'm going to use my slope to find other points. So I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the right 1, 1. I don't have any more space, so I'm going to do the opposite. Instead of going down 4 and to the right 1, I'm going to go up 4 to the left 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the left 1. Okay, and then I'm going to use my ruler and connect my points. Mine is not going to be 100% accurate because I don't have a grid to work with, but yours will be better. Okay, so that was the first line. I'll label it. And then the second one is 1/4x plus 1. So I'm going to start with my B and then up 1 to the right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1 to the right. Okay, I'm going to go down down 1 to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, y is equal to 1/4x. This is why it's important for you to label your lines with the equations so that you can easily read which line represents which linear relation. Okay, and from the slopes, I can conclude that these are perpendicular lines because their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. Right, and B, so the first line, I'm going to start with my plot of my B, and then my slope is down 2 to the right 3, down 2 to the right 3. Okay, and plotting 3 points is enough for you to then connect your points and create your line. And then the second line, -3, is my B. I start by plotting that, and then up 2 to the right 3. Hold on. Up 2 to the right 3, up 2 to the right 3. And then I use my slope to find 2 other points after my B, and then I connect it. And that's good. And then I'm going to look at my slopes, and my slopes are not negative reciprocals of each other, nor are they the same. So I'm going to write neither parallel nor perpendicular lines. Okay, and C. So my first line is y is equal to 3. Okay, so I already know that this is going to be a horizontal line. All I know is what the y-intercept value is, which is 3. Okay, so I plot that one point, and then I just draw a horizontal line. And then x is equal to -1. Just from the reading the algebraic equation, I know that this is a vertical line. All I know is what the x-intercept is, which is -1. Okay, so perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical lines are perpendicular to each other. Okay, so these are perpendicular lines. Okay, so the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. A slope of 0, the negative reciprocal of it is undefined. Okay, or just to make note, horizontal and vertical lines are always perpendicular. Example 4, stating parallel and perpendicular slopes. Determine the slope of a line that is perpendicular to y is equal to 3x minus 7. So this line has a slope of 3. So the parallel slope equals 3. In question 2, we have to convert this into slope y-intercept form. So -3y is equal to -2x plus 7. Divide all terms by -3. Y is equal to 2 over 3x. Subtract 7 over 3. So the slope here is 2 over 3. So a parallel slope would also have a slope of 2 over 3. Okay, the next one is x is equal to 2. So remember that slopes of a vertical line are undefined. So this parallel slope would also be undefined. Okay, it would be another vertical line. And then for question 4, all we know is our b-intercept, which means that this is a horizontal line, which means the slope is 0. So a parallel slope would also be 0. It would also be a horizontal line. Okay, determine the slope of a line that is perpendicular to, okay, so the slope is 3. So the perpendicular slope would be -1 over 3. In question 2, let's convert it into slope y-intercept form. So the perpendicular slope would be -3 over 2. And then for question 3, the perpendicular slope, this slope here, this is an undefined slope. So the perpendicular slope would be 0. Okay, and then for question 4, this would be a slope of 0. So m is equal to 0 here. So a perpendicular slope would equal undefined. Okay, last page. Equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So now let's create an entire equation of a parallel or a perpendicular line given a first line. So in A, write an equation that is parallel to the line 4x minus 2y plus 7 is equal to 0. So we want to create an equation that's parallel to this line. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to convert this into we need to convert the given equation into slope y-intercept form. So step 1, find slope by converting to y is equal to mx plus b. So I'm going to write out my standard form equation and then isolate y. And then continue to isolate y by dividing all terms by -2. 2x plus 7 over 2. Okay, so the slope of the first line is 2. So m is equal to 2. So if the lines are parallel, then that means that the line of the second line would also have the same slope of 2. So step 2, a line that is parallel will have the same slope. Okay, so we're going to write equation using m is equal to 2 as the slope and any b value. So y is equal to 2x and then any b value. Because they're parallel, the b's don't have to be the same. If the b's were the same and the slope was the same, that means that they're actually right, like the lines are right stacked on top of each other. So they're parallel lines, which just means that the slope has to be the same. The b-intercept could be anything. So I don't know, I can write like plus 1,000. Doesn't actually matter. This can be any value. And B, write an equation that is perpendicular to this given one. So again, first things first is we're going to find the slope by converting it into slope y-intercept form. Okay, so the slope of the first line is -7. Okay, so that means that the slope of the perpendicular line would be 1/7. So step 2, write equation with negative reciprocal slope. Y is equal to 1/7x. And then again, your b could be any value. It doesn't actually matter. Okay, and then question 6 is using perpendicular and parallel lines in a word problem. The points A, B, and C form a triangle. So I'm just going to draw out some sort of triangle here. And we're trying to determine whether it's a right triangle. So a right triangle has that 90-degree angle. Okay. So remember, 90-degree angles mean that the slope of this line and the slope of this line would be negative reciprocals of each other. So I'm going to find the slope of AB. So right now I'm only working with point A and point B. Is equal to okay, So I'm going to plug in my values just with points A and B, and I'm going to solve. Okay, so the slope of A and B is 3/2. Let's find the slope of BC. Again, I'm going to use the slope formula. Okay, so the slopes of points B and point C is -5. And what about AC? So now I'm only using point A and point C. Okay. The line of AB and the line of AC, they have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other, which means that they meet at that 90-degree angle. So this is actually indeed a right triangle. So now I can go back over here and I can label this. So this would be A, this would be B, and this would be C. So line AB, that line right here, I guess it's the purple line here, that has a slope of 3/2. And this line AC has a slope of -2/3. So they meet at that 90-degree angle. Okay, and over here is our slope of BC. Okay, so okay, there are some homework questions for you to try. And if you have any questions, you can always private message me on Brightspace. You can message me on Remind, or you can email me. And of course, you can complete today's quiz.